And we're back with some NBA observations right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us and cannot thank you enough for stopping by. If you are a new viewer to what we do here at the Lakers Fast Break, please like and subscribe. I've given you that obligatory asking because all of us YouTubers do it. If you can, it truly helps the channel out. From what they tell me, at least Google does anyways. So please go ahead, like and subscribe. And if you're a member, for just $2.99 a month, you're getting this a little bit sooner than everybody else. So go ahead and make sure you become a member today because it also helps the channel. So I heard dollars actually helps the channel as well. Yeah, that usually it's the best thing. And like and subscribe is great, but dollars usually helps even more. But yeah, if you can do any of that, it's greatly appreciated. But the NBA has just finished one of its biggest days of the year, Christmas Day, and hopefully everybody had a safe and happy holiday. And we look forward to 2026. But the NBA season marches on, and here today to go ahead and discuss the fallout from those Christmas Day games. Plus, is the gap between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference really that big or at all? We discussed that on today's show with a good man indeed. He is one of your favorites out there as well as mine. Good man that has just been all over the place as far as the sports journalism genre. He has just absolutely just been a great part of what we've done over the years, and I'm looking forward to any time I get the chance to chat with him. It is, of course, my good friend who also works as a correspondent for the World Baseball Network and also the Loudoun County News Herald News Herald, excuse me, as a sports reporter. It is Alfred Ezman. Alfred, great to have you back and wishing you a blessed 2026, my friend.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone, and a blessed 2026 to Gerald and all the audience watching. Fabulous day of Christmas Day games. Can't wait to talk about it. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to discuss whether or not the West is better than the East, vice versa, how close they are, and I can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. So I guess the one major talking point really coming out of it, if you're an NBA fan, if you're a Lakers fan, it's altogether different. But if you're an NBA fan, I guess the one thing you can take out of Christmas is that, hey, the OKC Thunder may not be the mighty giant after all, as it claims to be, or a lot of people had claimed it to be heading into the past 2 weeks, where in the past 2 weeks, as we saw with the NBA Cup semifinals, and this week, San Antonio, whatever they're doing, seemingly has their number with 3 wins in a row over the OKC Thunder, kind of upsetting the great start that OKC has had. OKC was on a record pace to actually exceed the Golden State Warriors' vaunted 70-plus win mark, and well, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case after losing 3 times in 2 weeks. But I think more importantly for the NBA, they understand that there is cracks in the wall of OKC as far as the dominance that they were showing for the first part of the season. Your thoughts and the takeaways from it? I spoke to Caleb Ponce earlier this week ahead of those 2 games, and I said to him that their confidence after the NBA Cup semifinal game was on us really just sky high. So whatever they did or didn't do this week doesn't really matter to me. Well, it actually should matter now because you've taken away that San Antonio once, twice, 3 times, even in OKC has defeated the Thunder. So really, I think is it a more measure of OKC, finding some flaws with them, or is it a measure of maybe just everybody underestimated what the Spurs can really do?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the Spurs finally hitting a boiling point with how good they can be. And if you look at the Christmas Day game yesterday in particular, wasn't all Wemby whatsoever. I mean, Castle and Fox both had great games. When you get Wemby doing his thing and then his guard supporting him like that, they can beat not just the Thunder, pretty much everybody in the NBA if they want to. It seemed that way yesterday, and it seemed that way in the other previous times they played Oklahoma City. And it's a little worrisome as a Thunder fan. I mean, you're not hitting the panic button necessarily. You're 26-5 and right at the top of the West still, but um you know, I there's a potential way that these teams meet again in the playoffs at some point. And thus far, San Antonio has this team's number, and there's no reason to think otherwise. So, if you're Oklahoma City, I don't think you let this phase you too much. Again, long season, you have a lot of time to kind of address flaws that you may have and whatnot. But as far as playing the Spurs team, San Antonio has their number, and we'll see how that continues. But yeah, I think the Spurs may have did the NBA a favor by showing flaws Oklahoma City might have.
And they've got that bench kid coming off the bench. No slouch in Victor Wembanyama. He seems
Mhm.
to have started a trend as far as him coming back from injury. They're limiting his minutes. So it's, Mitch Johnson said, you know what? Maybe a better idea is to have him coming off the bench while he works himself way back into shape. It's what the Lakers did with Austin Reeves. It's what New Orleans has been doing with Zion Williamson to some levels of success for San Antonio and New Orleans, that is. And I kind of like it. I don't think they're going to continue to do it because how much longer can you keep Wemby on a 25-minute, uh, you know, minutes restriction?
Mhm.
But it's so frustrating to me to a time. And I got to go ahead and talk to Caleb about this as well because obviously he, if you know him, covers the OKC Thunder for the Swab Report. I will say this when it comes to San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama, just so many different facets of his game, and they're not even utilizing the best parts of his game entirely. I saw so many fadeaways that he still do that he was so famous for doing, and troubled for doing. A lot of us like just like, you're 7'5". What are you doing fadeaways for? Why are you making trying to make too many mid-range jumpers? And they don't incorporate what some of the best things, whether it's a him thing or whether it's a team thing. They have just scratched the surface on Victor Wembanyama. Just think about if they incorporate 5 to 7 lobs to him a game. Just incorporate if they just try and see if it maybe one or two more post ups to him a game. What if they go ahead and get him on an isolation? Just those things that they just barely scratch the surface. That's the scary part when you're talking about San Antonio.
It is, yeah. I mean, and if you look at since he's came back in December with the minutes restriction Mitch Johnson's given him, just we're complaining about these weird shots he's taken, but he's doing it super efficiently. I mean, 55% from
Yeah,
field goals, and 46% from three. He's making pretty much half his threes. And that's something that people might get a little irky at because he's 7'5", but that's just the NBA in 2025 heading into 2026. That's just where we're at. Yeah, it's quite scary. And he's not even starting. He's coming off the bench, and they're handing it to the defending champions right now, as far as head to head goes. So I'm super excited about that. As much as the NBA, I like what you said, Gerald. As much as the NBA, maybe like, thank you, San Antonio, for showing OKC flaws. They're also like, oh, San Antonio, relax a little bit. I don't know if we're ready for all this yet.
let me ask you this: when we look back on this 2 months from now, do we see San Antonio still, barring any injuries, because we can't foresee that, but uh, if it stays like it is right now, do you in 2 months, do you see it like a San Antonio continuing to battle at the top of the Western Conference, or do you see it as a moment in time where everything clicked right away for San Antonio? Then they probably reverted back to a little bit something, I guess, less efficient over the following 2 months. Let me ask you: is this where they're all are now? Is this going to continue? Is this going to stay, a reality for San Antonio fans going forward?
It's hard for me. I mean, when you say at the top of the West, it's hard for me to say yes because, Denver Nuggets right on their tail. I know the Lakers had a bad Christmas, but they're still, right on their tail, nipping at their heels. So you have Minnesota a little bit further back, and then Houston, who's kind of sitting back there at 6 even. I think those teams can still give them a run of the mill. And, with how young San Antonio still is, and especially with, you know, heading into the playoffs. I don't know if San Antonio can make a deep run yet, just because they haven't been there. This group of guys hasn't been there to make a deep run. But hey, history says that this organization is a championship winning one, and they're really good in the playoffs. For all those years with Greg Popovich, of course, in the past. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I think there's just too much congestion right below them in the West for them to sit up there for long. Imagine what if Denver, based off that Christmas Day game that I'd love to talk about, what if after that game they break out into a big run and surpass San Antonio for second in the West? I'm going to pump the brakes on them thinking on saying that they're going to sit up there at the top, but I'm not ruling it out of the realm of possibilities. I just think the youth and inexperience of all these guys together in postseason environments may play a factor.
Once again, it's Alfred Ezman. Please go ahead and support Alfred Ezman today at the World Baseball Network and also the Loudoun County News Herald. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford, NBA Observations. Wanted to go ahead. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Truly appreciated. So, with that, again, I think the San Antonio Spurs have shown the rest of the league that there is hope as far as beating OKC. So OKC uh, looks like now it's not going to be the runaway uh, champion and everybody's giving to him like even I had just a couple weeks ago because obviously it looked like that there was any dominant team in NBA history. It looks like OKC was going to match that, but now we see OKC as a favorite, but the favorite is just not as strong of an F as it once was. So we'll see what happens there. But the next game I want to talk about, it was the morning game between two Eastern Conference rivals, Cleveland and New York, with New York with a great comeback victory on that. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Again, I've spoken in the past about how this new revamped offense by Mike Brown looks a lot like the old offense from Tom Thibodeau, if you see what I'm talking about, with a heavy reliance on Jalen Brunson, which is fine, no problem about that. In fact, at one time, leading into the month of December, there was about 10% less usage from Jalen Brunson, which is great. The ball was being passed around more, whatnot. But as we've gotten more and more into December, I've seen little less usage rate from Carl Anthony Towns and some of the others. And I've seen a little bit more usage rate from what I'm familiar with Jalen Brunson. And again, it's working right now. It's clicking. New York is right behind Detroit at the top of the Eastern Conference. And a lot of people now are picking New York as their favorite in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, fabulous win, first of all. I mean, this team got shellacked in the third quarter, held to just 24 points, and they flip right around and score 42 in the fourth to win the game over Cleveland. So fabulous win for New York, first of all. And yeah, Gerald, I see what you mean about Jalen Brunson a little bit. I mean, you look at yesterday, I think it's a good example. Took a ton of shots, wasn't too efficient, still had 34 points, right? So, what I'm complaining about is nothing pretty much, but I see what you mean there. But yeah, not as much of Carl Anthony Towns as you'd expect. Only 11 points for him. Wasn't too efficient. 5 of 13. Pretty good day for Josh Hart shooting the basketball. 5 of 9, 2 of 5 from 3 with 15 points. Jordan Clarkson was my hero of the day for the Knicks. 25 points out of him and 50% from 3 at 5 for 10. It is working right now. I do worry with what you said. Our team's going to figure this out, you know what I mean, really quick, and you apply a lot of pressure on Jalen Brunson and force the Knicks to go somewhere else with it. That's a good question for a later date because, like we said, it's been working right now, and they're right behind the Pistons in the East, right at the top of the conference. But yeah, I thought yesterday some of the supporting cast, not named Carl Anthony Towns alongside Brunson, were good, and Hart and Clarkson were two I just named, who I was super impressed with.
And the rising star and the next, I guess, the guy who will not have to pay for anything in New York as far as food is Tyler Kolek,
Mm-hmm.
who not only helped catapult the Knicks to that NBA Cup title yesterday, 16 and 9, 16 points, 9 assists. I want to say this: one of the I guess tragedies of Tom Thibodeau when he was coaching was that he just relied so heavily on the starting lineup and didn't give much at all thought to who's coming behind it as far as people coming off the bench. He may have had like a 7-man rotation at best because he just literally just worked the starting lineup to death. But I see now with, like you said, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench with 25 points, Tyler Kolek with 16, and Mitchell Robinson, 8 offensive rebounds of his 13 rebounds overall. That's the kind of support from the bench that a lot of teams, Lakers, would love to have coming off the bench. And if that's the case, and they are more well rounded, and if they shave some of those minutes from a Jalen Brunson, a Carl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, et cetera, if they can shave off some of those minutes, that makes them a lot more prepared for a longer run in the Eastern Conference playoffs and possibly even a finals run because they have a much more well-rounded team if they can go into an 8, 9, or even I don't think a 10-man rotation from what I see, but an 8 or 9-man rotation in New York.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot. What a year, or yeah, what a year to do it, right? I mean, without the stars in the East that you would normally have because of injuries, the Knicks right now in a slugfest with the Pistons at the top of the conference, so to speak. And if it were to end today, they're sitting at a 2 seed playing Cleveland again. If Cleveland were to work their way through the play-in tournament as expected, but yeah, I think that's a good testament to what they're about. And if this continues at this rate with how the Knicks are playing off the bench, I'd feel really good about them in the playoffs, especially with, like I just said, the stars missing in that conference.
And it's very strange to hear you say that about Cleveland Cavaliers in the play-in. I mean, their team,
Mhm.
one of the highest payrolls in the NBA. Um, they like every team has had their injury issues, but still they've had some underwhelming play as well outside of Donovan Mitchell, who has played spectacularly this season. And they're right now looking up at your Orlando Magic and other teams in the Eastern Conference. So that to me has to be one of the larger disappointments in the NBA. Why do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers have not achieved a great amount of success so far this season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's you kind of alluded to it a little bit. A lot of supporting cast members not helping Donovan Mitchell out enough, or not as much as you'd expect. I feel like if you look at the shooting percentages across the board, you have a lot of guys sitting around 40%, like Darius Garland, right around 40%, shooting the basketball. Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a little more he can add to the team. Um, and you look at, who's, you don't have a lot of guys leading them in statistically. I think really it's been the Evan Mobley show and Donovan Mitchell. And yeah, like you said, I think they could just use a lot more of the supporting cast to help them out.
And Evan Mobley, he has been down from what I think a lot of people expected, not even averaging 20 points a game. I think people were expecting him to take that leap. And even though it is improved slightly from what he did last season, I think a lot of people were expecting him to take another leap into a maybe not a superstar level, but just right below a superstar level. But 19 and 9, a lot of people would not complain about that. But I think in the Cleveland, they wanted something more, and they want something more out of Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, the tough part for the Cavs too, Gerald, their schedule going forward, at least for the first 4 games out of Christmas, not pretty. At Houston, at San Antonio, Phoenix, and then Denver. Those are some Western Conference giants they have to play. So, fortunately, I guess the fortunate part, you get Phoenix and Denver at the end of that at home, but you have those 2 Texas road games first, and those are going to be tough. So, Yeah, I think it's, Evan Mobley, and it's kind of unfair, I think, to place the blame all on Evan Mobley, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
of course.
yeah, I think there's other guys too who could step up as well. I mentioned Garland, among others, but yeah, I just think the supporting cast that Cleveland was expecting hasn't arrived yet. Fortunately for them, this is all salvageable. They're seventh in the East. They can climb their way back up. It's not like the West, so to speak, where you'd be a little bit further down, maybe than the Eastern Conference. But uh, tough start to the season, and I agree that if I had to choose the biggest disappointment so far this season, it would be the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I would probably go with the Clippers because I thought they were going to be a lot stronger, but they did get old really fast, really quickly. And again, two of the teams that we're going to be talking about here next are also in that disappointment category as of now. And that's the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors got back over the 500 mark with a 126 to 116 victory over the Dallas Mavericks, but Dallas 8 games under 500 themselves. Cooper Flag, though, has now established himself as the front runner, as I talked about with Caleb Ponce on the last show about who he thought was the rookie of the year or the best rookies, and he has established himself right now. That's not unexpected. What is unexpected, I think, was just the fact that this team, with a whole bunch of names on Dallas, is just not gelling. And Anthony Davis, guess what? There's a reason why they nickname him Street Clothes, and that is because he is out once again. He hurt his groin during the game, only played 11 minutes, and is now out for several games with a groin strain. So, your thoughts on Dallas? I mean, once again, they thought they were going to have a really huge lineup to throw at people, but Derek Lively is gone for the season. Of course, Kyrie is still coming back from an injury, and they're waiting on him. But even when he comes back, I don't know what team they're really going to have.
No, they're kind of getting caught toward the back there. And, if you look at the game yesterday, so many duds. I mean, the Anthony Davis thing is one thing, but that was an injury. So, there's a little bit of a pass there. Ryan Nemhard, 4 points in 17 minutes. I mean, goodness gracious. You go down the list to Klay Thompson. I don't know how much people expect out of Klay Thompson now. I expect more than 7 points in 26 minutes. I think that's fair out of Klay Thompson. If you play 26 minutes, you should score a little more than 7, even at your age and whatever role you're in at this point. I think that was the case yesterday. It was just too many duds from too many other people. Yeah, if you're a Mavericks fan, I think the one thing you have to look forward to right now is Cooper Flag. I think you have a very good future NBA player in your ranks. Because right now you're sitting below Portland for that last play-in spot, a game behind them at 12 and 20. And, the road to get back up is tough because I think there's a lot of teams in the West that could explode and spring up the standings at any time and leave more teams in the dust. So I don't know, how they really fix it. I think, they went for a big swing. Use a baseball analogy here. They went for a big swing and just struck out instead of getting the home run like they may have thought they would. It's kind of tough to see them how they play going forward, but we'll figure it out down the stretch and see what happens. Also, no D'Angelo Russell yesterday, just didn't play. He's been their leader in assists, so not having him out there may have been a factor in some aspects, but I don't know. As a Mavericks fan, I would look forward to Cooper Flag, and that's about the extent of it.
Well, again, you see the level of disappointment I think that Dallas Mavericks has. Nico has been fired, so they
Mhm.
can't blame Nico anymore for this. But again, this is a team that they're probably going to be. I don't know. They might give it another month and a half, right around the trade deadline, to see whether or not they're a good team that's going to be competing this year. If not, they don't see it that way. Then look to them to be some of the sellers for some of the players that they have on their team to go ahead and try and rebuild around Cooper Flag going forward. But we'll see what happens. But Golden State, again, 16 and 15 has not been quite the season that we're hoping for. But you can't say it's because of not because of Stephen Curry, because Stephen has been at 37. He's been fantastic. Even though he didn't shoot well yesterday, for the season, he has been fantastic, Alfred. And the thing is, as I've talked with Legend, who is a big supporter and follower of the Golden State Warriors, just everything around him has just not been what Stephen Curry has needed. Jimmy Butler, he's been okay, but the problem is with Jimmy Butler, he doesn't give you what you think he should be giving you during the course of the season. He always steps it up in the playoffs, is where he usually is known for. Draymond Green has been terrible, absolutely terrible. I think that there's a stat out there that he's earned more fouls than he has points this season. Yesterday it was close; it was 7-5, to give you an idea. And they just of these young guys, the Moody's, the Podziemskis, the Kamingas of the world, they just don't find the consistency with those guys from one game to the next. So your thoughts, my friend, on the Golden State Warriors? Will victory yesterday, like they did, turn their season around going forward for 2026?
I think at least for the time being, it can help them a ton. I mean, this was their third straight win. They beat Phoenix and Orlando previously, and their schedule going forward after Christmas pretty easy, Gerald. I mean, if you look at it, at Toronto, at Brooklyn, at Charlotte, you have Oklahoma City in there, which will be tough. But then right after that, you have the Utah Jazz. I don't think that's too tall of a task to ask. I think that's very manageable to go what 4 out of 5. You win 4 out of 5 of those, not accounting an Oklahoma City stunner possibly. But down the stretch, I do think a problem is I was looking at the averages for Kuminga, Podziemski. I guess Draymond, but I won't throw him in there because he's not young anymore or anything like that. But with those two, too many minutes and then too little points. I think it was 12 and 11 each on 20 plus minutes. You got to get more, right? It can't
Yeah.
be all Steph Curry, not in 25, 26. It could
And
be.
Kaminga didn't even play. He was a CD DNP.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can't in this day and age. I think the Warriors could have gotten away with Steph Curry doing this and winning further into the playoffs in 2017. We're a little bit past that now. No disrespect to Steph Curry, and if he shuts me up, so be it. So be it if he shuts me up. But I just don't think it's a good game plan to continue. I'm sure Steph and the rest of this team would appreciate the help from Kuminga and Podziemski going forward. But right now, in the near imminent future, I think they're doing pretty okay. And their schedule, at least to end the calendar year 2025 and the first few games of calendar year 2026 are not hard. So that stretch of games will be good for this team, and maybe that'll help build up some confidence from their younger guys, by playing these teams.
Once again, it's Alfred Ezman from the Loudoun County News Herald, along with the World Baseball Network. It's me, Gerald Glassford's NBA Observations. Truly appreciate you joining us. All right. We won't get to the Lakers last, so we'll go ahead and hit them fourth. The Lakers meandered through a Christmas Day game against a fellow struggling team on their road trip in the Houston Rockets. But I said going in, couple things. I said last weekend when the Lakers lost the Clippers, I was really angry, and people said not to overreact. And I said I am acting this way because the Lakers on Tuesday are playing a revenge-minded Phoenix Suns team, and on Thursday they're playing a team that shoots well, offensive rebounds well, and has athleticism at the guard spot. Just the three things that really don't do well in the Lakers' favor. And wouldn't you know, a week later, I've been proven to be right. And I don't want to be right in this situation because it meant that the Lakers would be continue to lose it. So they have. They're now finding very hard to defend the basketball, especially at the beginning of the games. Beginning of the games, that starting lineup has been absolutely atrocious on the defensive end, and they have been getting off to bad start in several games in a row now. It's not just a question of when. Now we go into it as Lakers fans saying how much are they going to be down by the end of the first quarter. It's seemingly every single game now over the past 2-3 weeks, and there's been no answer. There's been no answer. There's been a slight reprieve during yesterday's game in the second quarter when the Lakers cut it down to 4 with both Jared Vanderbilt and Marcus Smart in there as defenders, providing energy and be able to force on the defensive end just enough to get the Lakers close. But as you saw, once they couldn't find the mix in that second half, Austin Reeves, he missed the rest of the game with the left calf strain issue once again, and he had some soreness from it. The Lakers just couldn't find any magic the rest of the way. They just looked listless. They looked tired. They looked unenergetic, and they just looked like they didn't care. And that's exactly what JJ Redick said. JJ Redick, whatever he's been doing in practices, and he's had several practices now where he's tried to put the emphasis on defense. It's just not working, or the Lakers are just not listening.
Yeah, I think a difference in this game could have been. I don't know how much you think this played a factor, Gerald. Bench points. Houston didn't have a lot either. Both these teams didn't really have a lot of bench points. I guess Jared Vanderbilt got in double figures, and then Reed Shepard did for
Yes,
Houston.
that was a scoring outburst from him. 11
Yeah,
points. I
yeah,
guess that'll
no,
tell you all you need to know.
right, exactly. And I mean, the rest of the people, I mean, didn't they played a ton of guys off the bench. No one could score anything off the bench, including Marcus Smart. Oh, Rui Hachimura, not a good game whatsoever from him. Just disaster class. Probably the worst game on the team. And then, as far as Houston goes, I think Kevin Durant and Amen Thompson just had their way with the Lakers, especially shooting. They were pretty dang efficient. Kevin Durant was great from three. And yeah, they just took advantage of the Lakers looking tired and lackluster, and it happened there. They in their case, they really didn't need the bench to score this crazy amount of points because, well, the starters were handling business. I think all of them had a pretty solid game in their own respects. Şengün, who I love so much, a double-double for him on a super efficient night scoring the ball. Yeah, I thought that could have been maybe a difference if the Lakers got more bench points out of guys like Dalton Connect, or I don't know how much you want these guys shooting. LaRavia maybe taking some more shots, even though he shot the most out of anyone on the bench, or towards the most out of anyone on the bench. That could have been a difference to me in this game that the Lakers didn't exploit. But yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with them looking tired and unenthused during this game against Houston.
Well, that and the fact that they got out rebounded 48-25, 17 offensive rebounds, again, for the best offensive rebounding team in the NBA in Houston. They got killed. It's just a lot of it was effort, and the
Yeah.
Lakers just didn't provide any effort. And like you said about the bench, the Lakers bench has been much maligned by us all season long. I thought there'd be a slight uptick in as far as productivity with the additions of Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart, but because of injuries, those guys have had to, well, when Marcus Smart has been available, they've had to be starters a great bit of the time. But last night they were part of the bench, and it just didn't give you enough. And I will say this again: the Lakers have just got to find some happy medium. But Rui Hashimura, I had been a proponent of getting him the ball more often in the offense, but it's seemingly something has happened, a disconnect. He was just out there getting cardio yesterday, giving you a donut. At this point, if you need to shake things up in order to go ahead and get this Lakers team back on track, or at least to, at least an acceptable level, Rui may be the first place I start. I know a lot of people had targeted him. I know Yovad Buha and other Lakers reporters had targeted him. I'm just afraid if you put Marcus Smart in there for a consistent period of time to give you more defense in that starting lineup, he may not be able to stay on the floor long enough to help you with that. Because we even saw yesterday where he hurt his shoulder in the first half, ran back to the locker room, whatever he worked out, or what, maybe it's just like a stinger. So he came back and he played the rest of the game, but he has been out several games so far this season. And I think you got to roll the dice. You got to put him out there right now ahead of Rui Hashimura, because maybe it'll help boost Rui's offense coming off the bench, and maybe it'll help the defense, which is very much maligned right now. Because Jared Vanderbilt, the reason why he was in the doghouse for several games earlier this month was that he couldn't give you much on the offense, but he's really worked on his game in practice. He's really worked on his 3-point shooting, and maybe it's acceptable enough to where you can keep him out there like you did yesterday. But the Lakers do need some viable defenders and individuals that can at least provide some passive, some active defense on there, because the Lakers are passive in their starting lineup, especially with their top three scorers, LeBron, Luca, and Austin, because those three guys are at this stage of their careers are really poor defenders. And DeAndre Ayton, as at best, maybe an average rim protector, maybe even a slightly below, but still, again, you're getting so far, except for yesterday, some solid numbers from him. He cannot make up for what you don't have in that starting lineup right now.
Yeah, that there clearly has to be something there to help out, especially if the Lakers want to. Again, I'm this kind of guy. I don't know, how you guys are most of the time, because everyone's different, but no panic button, right? The Lakers are still in a 1 through 6 spot in the West. I think that they're, in order to get up to where Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Denver are right now, you're kind of going to need to find a solution for this. I guess we'll call it the smart Hachimura problem that we were just getting into. I think there needs to be a hole there, or there needs to be a plug for that hole and that leak there, in order to get up to that level where those teams are. I think switching it up with Smart instead of Ruri is a way to look at it. And I would do it now because once trade deadline rolls around, that might be something the Lakers want to address and ask for from teams that are selling.
Well, my friend, the last game on the docket, I wanted to mention something about Houston. Is Houston, who a couple weeks ago we thought was in that mix right there with Denver and OKC, it now seemingly looks like San Antonio has taken their place. But at this, I say don't sleep on Houston. I think Houston had a rough road trip for the most part outside of what happened in LA. And I think with Houston, they have a lot of good things going for it as far as their overall. They do need a playmaker. It's clear. Even in yesterday's game, there were times that they could use some help from the point guard position to a really just a true point guard standpoint. Van Vliet's loss for the entire season has hurt them, but I would say don't totally pass over the Houston Rockets just yet.
No, this stretch that they're having that you mentioned, I think, and right before Christmas, going back to their December 15th loss to Denver, is their roughest of the year. I mean, Gerald, we remember in October and early November, this team was rolling. I mean, rolling through everybody, and it was looking pretty scary. So, like I said about the West as a whole, these teams can explode back up into the standings at any time. We're seeing San Antonio do it. Houston did it earlier in the season, like I just mentioned, and Houston can do it again. So, yeah, I am not ruling out the Rockets just yet, just like I'm not ruling out the Lakers. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show.
Some people after last night are ruling out the Lakers, and I'll just leave it at that. But the last game on the list is Denver and also Minnesota. A very exciting game. Went into overtime. I'm telling you, with Nikola Jokic, and he gets those video game like numbers. It's just amazing to see. I'll start off with Nikola Jokic for himself. Again, they got the victory last night in overtime. They're 22-8. At times, with the injuries to their starting lineup, and Cam Johnson is the latest to have an extended injury. Aaron Gordon is also out, and Christian Braun is also out. So they've been trying to piece together the team as best they can around Murray and Jokic. Jokic last night, 56, 16, and 15. Let me just put that to you again. Okay, we're not playing 2K here. 56, 16, and 15. Jamal Murray, who is now finally having an all-star season in the season, had 35 and 10 assists himself. But when it comes to Nikola Jokic, we, on our last conversation, Caleb Ponce and I had talked about how the MVP race, we would have to slightly lean towards SGA, but that was 2 weeks ago. Where do you see the MVP race now, especially after a highlighted performance with SGA losing and Jokic dominating in that overtime victory?
Yeah, I think it's Jokic, and you just said the reason to my answer pretty much. I think in that 2 week span, I probably would have said SGA around 2 weeks ago by a little bit, not by a lot. But losses to the Spurs like this, and the NBA Cup and Christmas and all that stuff, I think has flipped it a little bit. I guess I know Jokic didn't play in the NBA Cup, but it's flipped it. And a performance like this will do that. Uh, just speechless. I mean, absolutely absurd stuff. 15 of 21 from field goal range, and then free throw wise, 22 of 23. He got a lot of them. It was a little SGA game for Jokic, so to speak. I kid, just because you play the game to score points.
I mean, that same argument goes out to Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic as well. I got that all night long last night. And, when you don't get your free throws, you have to find other ways to score the basketball. Those guys didn't. Nikola did get the free throws, and it obviously helped. They needed every point they could get in an overtime victory.
Yeah. And my name of the game, or the name of the game, is to put the ball in the rim. You score points. You score the most points, you win. And that's what Nikola Jokic did by getting to the free throw line. So, point being, though, yeah, I mean, I think this performance and that 2-week stretch we talked about with you and Ponce, your guest on, I think it's flipped to Jokic as of right now. Maybe it flips again, right? Maybe this lights a spark for SGA and the Thunder losing to the Spurs like this over and over again. It's just going to make it exciting, right? So I'm hoping for that. But if it ended right now, Gerald, and me and you were voting on it, I would say Nikola Jokic is the MVP this year.
All right. Well, there's some thoughts right there on the Christmas Day games. If you have thoughts, please put it below in the comments below, or just send it to me at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, Alfred, I wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts because you are a big supporter of the Eastern Conference. You have a team that you've been following for years, the Orlando Magic. We're not having the best of times right now. They're okay, but I think with the trades and things that they did during the offseason, I think there was a lot. You had a lot bigger expectations of the Orlando Magic of where they would be right now. But be that as as a whole, we came into the season saying there was a definite gap between the Eastern and Western Conference, and seeing what's happened with OKC in recent weeks, seeing how Detroit has continued to dominate in the Eastern Conference. The Lakers will see them next week. Seeing New York still being the favorite out there as far as a lot of people's minds, as far as from the East, and thinking they're playing even better than they did last year. Where do you see the Eastern Conference now between the East and the West? Is it that far of a gap anymore?
It's still the West, right? I think the West still has the edge in it, so to speak. But as far as a gap goes, I don't think I don't think it's too big. I really don't. I mean, you look at Oklahoma City still leads the West with 26 wins. Detroit right there at 24. San Antonio second, 23. Knicks right there at 21. And then I guess there's a little bit of a gap because you have the Lakers with 19, Nuggets with 22, and then behind the Knicks are the Celtics and Raptors with 18 each. And then you have, to round out the top six, who are in the Sixers and Magic, who have 16 and 17 respectively. So I think there's a little bit of a gap maybe as you get down into the middle group of the playoff pictures. As far as the top end goes, I don't think that there's too much of a gap between where the Spurs and Thunder are at against each other and the Knicks and Pistons. I think those two teams are pretty close to each other. There's a 2.5 game gap between the Thunder and Spurs, 3-game gap between the Pistons and Knicks. So again, very similar there in their own respects, and the win totals are right there matching up with each other almost. I still think it's the West. I think if you stack the conferences up against each other, the West has the better teams. It's the better conference. It's the tougher one. It's going to be the tougher one come playoff time. As of right now, I think. But I think the East still has its grittiness to it and its close competitiveness to it, especially if you look in this middle part. I didn't even mention Cleveland, kind of still sitting there, as disappointing as they have been, behind Orlando, a game back from them. And the other teams who are pretty close to them as well. Miami, Heat culture continuing just to linger around with that 8th spot too, right behind the Cavs, being competitive. So I think there's competitiveness in the two conferences, but the West is on a slightly bigger level than the East. I think that makes the gap close, though, between the two conferences, if that all makes sense. That was kind of a ramble.
No worries, my friend. Yeah, very much understood. So the gap is closing. I think the gap is not as far away, I think, as a lot of people had even us had
Mhm.
thought that it was at the start of the season. Again, the frailties of OKC, but that can all change. OKC can go on another 20-game win streak, and we could be evaluating this differently. But we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But once again, Alfred, just truly fantastic to have you here. I know our schedules never seem to align, but I'm happy they did for this one moment, and always glad to have you stop by, whether it's live or it's one of our recorded NBA observations. But before we head on out, please catch us up to date on what you're doing out there with the Loudoun County News Herald, and of course, what you do for the World Baseball Network.
Yeah, of course. Loudoun County News Herald, just doing high school sports in the East Tennessee area still. Everything's going smooth with that. Basketball season, of course. So going to games on a lot of weeknights, a lot of Friday nights, that sort of thing, which is going really well. World Baseball Network, we are getting into full swing with WBC, World Baseball Classic, events, the event and that sort of thing happening March 2026. We pride ourselves in being one of the biggest reporting entities during that event. If you guys love to see, I know Japan, USA, Shohei against the USA's All Stars. The USA has put quite a good team together. I'm super excited for that. That's going to be a cool event that we cover. And then, of course, me specifically, we have college baseball on the horizon coming in February. So, going to be doing some preseason content, official preseason content on that. And besides that, Gerald, thank you for having me back on. Again, apologies for the schedules not lining up per se. I got the mobile set up right now for Christmas. This isn't my mic or anything in front of me. This is just the laptop. So thank you for having me on. Hopefully I gave you a good rundown of all the Christmas games, what I thought
Yep.
about them. And I hope everyone is enjoying this NBA season. I hope everyone enjoyed Christmas and the holiday season as well. So thank you guys, or thank you, Gerald, for having me back on today.
Thank you, my friend. As long as you are saying that the Dodgers are doing well, looking for a three-peat, Joe is happy. That's all that matters. And getting Diaz, something I lamented all season long, where I thought the Dodgers would not win because of their bullpen, and ultimately they had to bring their starters in to be their bullpen. But hey, you know what? In playoffs, they got it done. That's
Mhm.
that's all the matter of fact, and that's great for Dodgers fans like us, or like me. But yeah, with getting Diaz, I really think really helps them out. The only thing is, how do you fight that complacency after winning a back-to-back title?
Yeah, will be interesting to see. That's always the hangover effect, right, for championships and whatnot. Will say didn't have a hangover effect this past year. They did it
And what an
again.
exciting World Series, wasn't it?
It was, and I remember I remember Joe being like, it was after Toronto. I think maybe tied it or took the lead in the series. I can't remember specifically. Someone correct me in the
Yeah, they
comments.
took the lead heading back to Toronto, and they you sh- you
That's right.
this was like going to a wake, and they were all thought it's over. It's over. They all thought it was over. They'll tell you now differently, but I was there. I know what they were saying. I
There you
know what
go.
they were saying. They won't admit it, but they were all saying, that it's over, that it's done. And even in that six game, oh, it's over, it's over. I thought it was over, but
Mhm.
thanks to the wall, I think that's the actual MVP of all the entire the Dodgers. When they had the parade, they should have brought the wall from Toronto with them. That if you know, you know. So
Right.
I'll just leave it at that. So I mean, that wall, I'm sure they're doing something in the off season in Toronto to fix that wall so that doesn't happen again. So
Yeah.
all the things to get wedged and all the times to get wedged. My gosh. But you know what? Dodgers are back-to-back champions because, partly because of it. But Alfred, great to have you back, my friend. I hope our time and that we speak to each other is a lot shorter, but I'm wishing you continued success in 2026 with the Loudoun County News Herald, and of course, everything you do for the World Baseball Network, and everything that you do for us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I am indebted to you once again for your great reporting, your great analysis, and your fantastic thoughts on the NBA scene here, my friend.
Yes, Gerald, and I am indebted to you for allowing me to repeatedly come back on. So thank you and best wishes in 2026.
Absolutely. They love the hat anyways. They love your different array of hats. So I got to
Right.
bring you back on. At least if not for the great NBA analysis, I got to bring you back for that. So
Exactly.
there you go,
Very
my friend.
good.
Once again, it is Alfred Ezman. Please go ahead and support him today at the Loudoun County News Herald and also as well the World Baseball Network. We'll be back on Sunday for sure for our thoughts on what happens with the Lakers and the Kings. And then also next week, as always, we'll be providing some more great NBA observations right here on the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.